If you are over 60 and feeling stiffer in the morning, more tired by noon or foggy at night, watch this. Doctors say it's normal aging. The truth? It's caused by 3 reversible changes that control your aging speed. Most people believe aging works like a countdown clock. 60 turns into 70, 70 into 80, and somewhere along the way decline is assumed to be automatic. But that assumption is wrong. One of the wisest physicians Japan ever produced, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, explained aging very differently. After decades of caring for older adults well into his own later years, he said the body does not follow a simple downward curve. It follows a feedback system. It responds, every single day, to how it is used, how it is fueled, and how it is challenged. That means aging is not something that just happens to you. It reacts to the signals you send. And after 60, those signals matter more than ever. There is a quiet fear I hear from patients all the time. They don't always say it out loud, but it shows up in their posture, their hesitation, their voice. They say, "I feel like time suddenly sped up, and my body can't keep pace." If you felt that, I want you to know something important. You're not imagining it, but you're also not powerless. What changes after 60 is not just the body, it's the margin for error. Small habits that once didn't matter now send stronger messages, and small corrections now have surprisingly large effects. This is where many people get it wrong. They assume aging speed is written into their genes, that what's happening now was always inevitable. But genetics explain far less than we were taught to believe. Researchers who study long-lived populations, including Dan Buettner's work in the Blue Zones, consistently find the same thing. People who age slowly do not rely on aggressive medical interventions. They are not chasing breakthroughs or supplements or complicated routines. Instead, they make a few decisive daily adjustments that quietly protect movement, thinking, and a sense of purpose. They simplify, they repeat what works, and they stay engaged with their own bodies. In this video, I want to walk you through 3 changes that act like levers. Handled one way, they accelerate decline. Handled another way, they preserve independence, sometimes for decades longer than expected. These are not dramatic changes. They are not extreme. And they are absolutely realistic even if you live alone, even if you're in pain, even if you're tired of being told to just do more. What matters is not doing everything. What matters is sending the right signals. And once you understand those signals, aging stops feeling like a countdown and starts feeling like something you can finally work with instead of against. Change number 1. How you use your muscles after 60 determines how fast you lose them. There is a quiet shift that happens after 60, and it rarely feels dramatic at first. Effort begins to feel more expensive. Movements are postponed. Tasks are simplified, not out of laziness, but out of a very human instinct to conserve energy. Over time, that instinct carries consequences. When physical effort is reduced in the name of preservation, legs tend to lose strength first. Reaction time slows. Balance becomes less forgiving. What feels like caution slowly reshapes how the body responds to the world. Within a few years, people often notice they feel less steady than they used to, even though nothing bad ever happened. What's rarely discussed is why this occurs. In geriatric physiology, muscle loss after midlife is not driven primarily by age. It is driven by lack of regular loading. Muscle tissue is biologically economical. When it senses it is no longer needed, it quietly scales itself down. This is not failure, it is adaptation. The body is always listening. When muscles are asked to generate force, even modest force, they receive a signal to stay metabolically active. When they are not, the signal fades. Strength does not disappear overnight, but it becomes less available, less reliable, less responsive. This is where fear unintentionally plays a role. Many people move less because they worry about stiffness, pain, or instability. But paradoxically, doing less often leads to more of all 3. Joints receive less nourishment. Muscles become less coordinated. The nervous system becomes cautious, then hesitant. Carefully chosen movement does not destabilize the body. In many cases, it does the opposite. It restores a sense of dialogue between intention and action. That dialogue doesn't require workouts, equipment, or exertion. It often shows up in small, ordinary moments: rising from a chair with control, navigating stairs with awareness, using the ankles and calves during a slow heel lift while holding the counter. These brief engagements remind the body that strength is still relevant. What matters is not intensity. What matters is frequency and clarity. Muscle tissue responds best to repeated reminders that it still has a job to do. One way to understand this is emotionally rather than mechanically. Muscles behave less like machines and more like relationships. When they are engaged regularly, even briefly, they remain responsive. When they are ignored, they withdraw. Muscles are like a conversation. When you stop speaking to them, they stop answering. After 60, the pace of aging is shaped not by how much effort is available, but by whether effort is still being exchanged at all. Change number 2. What and when you eat. Shapes muscle, brain speed, and recovery. As the years pass, appetite often changes in subtle ways. Meals become lighter during the day, sometimes almost incidental. Then, toward evening, hunger gathers and arrives all at once. This pattern feels natural, even reasonable, especially when energy feels limited earlier on. But the timing of nourishment carries information that aging bodies interpret very clearly. During the active hours of the day, muscles, the brain, and the nervous system are drawing on resources. They are processing movement, maintaining balance, responding to the environment. When support arrives late, much of that daily demand has already passed without reinforcement. This matters because aging physiology does not use nutrients the same way it once did. Protein and essential micronutrients become more effective when they are distributed earlier, closer to the hours when posture, coordination, and reaction time are being used. In older adults, this timing influences not just muscle maintenance, but also cognitive sharpness and physical confidence. From a biological perspective, this is about signaling rather than calories. Muscles and brain cells respond to the presence of building materials by staying engaged in repair and renewal. When those materials are absent for long stretches, the body shifts into a more conservative mode. Long-lived cultures offer an interesting contrast. Across regions known for slow aging, meals tend to be simple and repeated rather than large and delayed. The emphasis is not on abundance but on reliability. Strength is supported gradually, not replenished all at once at the end of the day. These patterns are not rigid. They are gentle. They align nourishment with function. For aging bodies, foods that are easy to digest earlier in the day tend to support muscle signaling more effectively than heavier late meals. The digestive system itself becomes part of the equation. When digestion is not overwhelmed, energy remains available for movement, thinking, and repair. There is a quiet logic here. Repair works best when supplies arrive before strain accumulates. Waiting until everything is depleted makes the process less efficient, especially later in life. Your body does not rebuild in anticipation of nourishment. It rebuilds in response to it. That is why timing shapes recovery, why earlier support often feels different than late compensation. The goal is not perfection, it is alignment. Your body repairs best when it receives supplies before the damage accumulates. Recovery changes meaning as we age, yet most people are never told that. Earlier in life, recovery often happened automatically. A night of sleep, a quiet day, and the body returned to baseline. After 60, that automatic reset becomes less reliable, not because the body is failing, but because its regulatory systems need clearer signals. Many older adults associate recovery with withdrawal. After physical discomfort or emotional strain, the natural response is to sit more, lie down longer, and reduce engagement. On the surface, this feels protective. In practice, the body often interprets extended stillness as uncertainty rather than safety. When movement is reduced for long stretches, circulation slows. Blood flow becomes less dynamic, especially to the lower limbs. Joints receive less synovial fluid, which is how cartilage stays nourished. Muscles remain in a guarded, shortened state. Over time, this guarding increases stiffness and makes the next movement feel more difficult than the last. The nervous system plays a central role here. After strain, whether physical or emotional, the nervous system looks for cues that the environment is stable again. Gentle motion, rhythm, and predictability provide those cues. Without them, the system can remain mildly activated, keeping the body in a low-grade stress response. This is one reason fatigue can persist even after long periods of rest. From a clinical standpoint, recovery works best when the body is guided back toward balance, rather than removed from activity entirely. Light movement supports lymphatic flow, which helps manage inflammation. Subtle shifts in posture and breathing help normalize muscle tone. Regular patterns help the brain predict what comes next, which reduces internal vigilance. This dynamic is especially noticeable in older adults who experience recurring aches or soreness. Those who maintain small, consistent patterns of circulation often report that discomfort resolves more quickly and returns less intensely. The body becomes familiar with resolution. It learns that strain is followed by restoration, not by shutdown. Emotional strain follows the same biological pathways. Grief, worry, and uncertainty activate the same stress systems as physical injury. When recovery from emotional stress involves only withdrawal, the body may hold tension longer. Gentle re-engagement, even in quiet ways, helps regulate stress hormones and restore nervous system balance. There is also a timing element. Recovery signals that occur shortly after strain tend to be more effective than those delayed for hours or days. Circulation, breath, and gentle movement act as early reassurance. They tell the body that it does not need to remain on alert. Over time, these signals shape how the body ages. A system that regularly resolves strain maintains flexibility, coordination, and confidence. A system that accumulates unresolved stress becomes cautious and rigid, even when no injury is present. Recovery, then, is not passive. It is not the absence of activity. It is a process of reorganization. The body resets its internal tone, restores fluid movement, and re-establishes rhythm. When recovery becomes a familiar biological pattern, aging slows its pace. The body does not brace itself against the future. It adapts, recalibrates, and continues forward with less resistance. There is a change that affects aging more quietly than muscle loss or fatigue, yet it often shapes them both. It appears in language, in expectations, and in the way bodily signals are interpreted. It sounds harmless, even realistic, but over time it alters behavior in ways that compound decline. It begins with a simple thought: this is just age. That phrase tends to appear when movements feel slower, when balance feels less reliable, or when energy fluctuates without a clear reason. It offers an explanation, but it also closes a door. Once something is attributed entirely to age, curiosity fades, attention softens. Early signals are no longer explored or adjusted to. They are accepted as permanent. The body responds to this shift. From a neuroscience perspective, belief is not abstract. Expectation influences motor output. The brain continuously predicts what the body is capable of, and those predictions shape how muscles are recruited, how balance is organized, and how confidently movement is initiated. When the expectation is decline, the nervous system becomes more conservative. This conservatism shows up physically. Gait shortens, movements become guarded, reaction time slows, not solely because tissues are aging, but because the brain is limiting output to avoid perceived risk. Over time, this reduced output reinforces the belief that the body is failing, even when capacity still exists. Clinicians observe a striking pattern. Older adults who remain attentive to bodily feedback without judgment often maintain function longer than those who disengage from their own signals. Curiosity keeps the feedback loop active. Resignation interrupts it. This does not mean ignoring limitations or denying change. It means staying in conversation with the body rather than assuming the conversation is over. When effort is replaced with observation, adjustments occur naturally. Some movements feel easier than expected. Others feel harder, but improve with consistency. The body reveals where support is needed and where capacity remains. This information is lost when everything is attributed to age alone. Psychologically, belief shapes emotional tone as well. When decline is assumed to be inevitable, motivation narrows, engagement decreases. Life becomes something to manage rather than participate in. This withdrawal subtly accelerates physical changes by reducing stimulation, variation, and feedback. In contrast, a mindset grounded in observation maintains flexibility. It allows for change without surrender. It acknowledges aging without letting it define every outcome. The nervous system remains adaptive rather than defensive. This invisible change does not announce itself. It accumulates quietly through language, assumptions, and internal narratives, yet its effects ripple through posture, balance, confidence, and resilience. Aging speeds up when curiosity slows down. When curiosity remains, the body continues to send useful information. It adapts, it recalibrates, it remains responsive even as it changes. When aging is viewed only through numbers, it feels abrupt and unforgiving. One decade seems manageable, the next arrives with unexpected changes. Yet when aging is examined through the lens described by Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, it becomes far less mysterious. He did not see longevity as the absence of decline, but as the continuation of engagement. The body, in his view, responds to whether it is still being used, listened to, and included in daily life. This perspective reframes what many people experience after 60. The body does not suddenly betray itself. It adjusts to the signals it receives. Muscles respond to whether they are asked to participate. The nervous system responds to whether movement still feels safe and familiar. Metabolism responds to how consistently it is supported. These responses accumulate quietly, shaping the pace of aging over time. What often surprises people is how small these signals can be. Aging does not require dramatic effort to slow its pace. It responds to patterns, how regularly the body experiences load, how predictably it receives nourishment, and how reliably it resolves stress all send ongoing information to every system. Over months and years, that information becomes biology. Research on long-lived populations reinforces this idea. Dan Buettner's observations show that people who age well tend to simplify rather than intensify. They do not search for constant improvement. They repeat behaviors that support function, balance, and connection. Their days are structured around continuity, not optimization. This simplicity is not passive, it is attentive. It reflects an understanding that consistency shapes physiology more effectively than sporadic effort. In later life, the body becomes especially responsive to what is repeated. Small actions performed regularly create stability. Irregular extremes create confusion. There is also an emotional component. When people remain engaged with their bodies, they retain a sense of agency. They notice what feels different and what still feels possible. This awareness supports confidence, which directly influences coordination, balance, and resilience. When engagement fades, uncertainty grows, and the body often responds by becoming more guarded. Aging does not accelerate without cause. It accelerates when signals become weaker, less frequent, or more withdrawn. It slows when signals remain clear, supportive, and familiar. This is not about reversing time or striving for youth. It is about preserving responsiveness. What happens next is not determined solely by what has already occurred. The body remains adaptive far longer than most people are told. Aging continues to respond, quietly and faithfully, to what it is given.